West Coast and Port Adelaide provide yet another nail-biting result, this time Port Adelaide getting the job done over our Eagles by just one straight kick.
We're back to break down the game, chat through all the promising takeaways and discuss some avenues for improvement as the Eagles look to continue their strong run of form. Welcome back, Golden Wingers, to our review of Round 13 versus Port Adelaide. We are joined, as always, by myself, Ryan, and obviously Kurt, as always.
Good to see you guys.
Good to see you guys. Kurt, obviously probably a disappointing result for the Eagles on the weekend with the loss, but some good takeaways from that game. I think there was almost up to 50,000 fans at that game. The experience at the ground was pretty insane in that last quarter. Unlucky to get over the line, but we just got to take the result on the neck and move on to next week with a winnable game against North.
Absolutely, mate. Can't wait to unpack it. And you're right, there are some mixed feelings about this one. As you said, you're at the ground there with 50-odd thousand West Coast supporters, so very jealous about that. How was the atmosphere, and did you find that the crowd was sort of willing the boys home toward the back end of the game?
I think we did our absolute best, mate. I think everybody around that stadium was trying to get them over in that fourth quarter. I think we obviously missed quite a few opportunities, which were unfortunate, but I think the boys, with their elite pressure in that last quarter, were really trying their best to get that result over the line. And obviously that first half has hurt us, but encouraging signs in those last two quarters in that game, seeing the fight and the effort to will our team over the line. Just unfortunate with the result, obviously getting that 6-point loss.
Dude, as you say, the initial feelings probably were pretty happy at the end of the game. You know, it's been a long time since we've been consistently in games. That's it's probably well over a month now that we can say we've been a genuine chance to win at some stage, which is, I can't remember the last time that happened. So we take that. But I think that the more we do ponder on it, the more that we are allowed to feel disappointed about this game. Minnie would be the first to admit, and I heard him allude to it in the presser, that they were playing bang average footy for our not so lofty standards throughout that first half. And we didn't really get to see any of that fun Eagles brand, as you mentioned, with a lot of the turnovers and Port's pressure to their credit. It felt like we were just picking out Asava Radaglia and Alir Alia.
We talked about this earlier. Like, there was a lot of times in that first half where we were just bombing the kick down the pack, and obviously Alir and Radaglia are probably one of the best intercepting partnerships in the league, and these boys were just cleaning us up with the amount of intercepts they were getting through the game. And Job and Jake, I love how they adapted in the game. I think the third and fourth quarter, they were starting to lead hard at the footy and try to outrun their opposition. And that really started to open the game. And we were starting to see the brand that the Eagles have been trying to put together was that transition brand type footy. And obviously that started with a few marks out on the outer wing, and then that transition football that Minnie has talked heaps and heaps about.
It's rough, isn't it? And I'm keen to get into that a little bit later in the stats deep dive, because we do have, I suppose, not a solution, but we do have a little bit of an explanation for the inside forward 50 entries. It's obviously been a massive point of frustration for a lot of the supporters. So keen to get into that a little bit later. But as you said, we saw some massive growth
for sure.
From the youth. And that's the flip side of having a really poor front first half, is you get to respond in the second half. And the lads absolutely did that, which is growth. Definitely feels like we saw a lot of the young players getting really gritty with that fight back. Bo Allen had a massive last quarter, which was one that I really wanted to highlight. He was just super strong in the contest, stood under the footy a few times and copped a free kick, used the ball well and was really composed.
Really loved his last quarter, man. He really took the game on. I loved his marking, his pressure, his outer wing capabilities were really good in allowing us to keep the ball in our forward half, and we were able to continue the amount of pressure with Bo with some composed kicks as well. He gets the ball inside 50. You think he's going to shoot, but no, he makes the right decision. He kicks inside to Waterman and creates the goal. This the maturity of Bo, which we're starting to see now. I'm seeing in the last few quarters of the game, and he's stepping up. He steps up a level when the game's on the line, and these are the sort of players. Obviously, this guy was a WA captain in his draft year, really highly touted.
A lot of league footy as well.
A lot of
league premiership.
Yeah, for sure. Big time. And this is why we brought Bo Allen in, and Jagger Smith, obviously, we missed out on. But Big Bo, I'm backing this boy. I love this boy.
He's building nicely, isn't he? And he wasn't alone, mate. Rhett Bazzo as well, I thought.
Yeah.
Stood up for a few big intercepts late. Tom McCarthy as well. How many intercept marks did he take? Felt like he was putting himself in the hole a lot, which isn't something that we see or associate with Tom McCarthy's game. But it was just good to see these younger players starting to stand up in the contest in years gone by, it would have been your Shuey, your McGovern, your Duggan when he was at his best, Brad Shepherd. I'm probably missing a few, but seeing these guys take that step up and taking the responsibility, because the game was ours to win and we had to do the tough stuff, and they were doing that. So even players like Ryan Marrick and Malachi Champion as well had some massive physical moments, cracking in with the desperation that we have been just wanting to see for so long.
Yeah, also, I think we need to mention this guy. Willem Dersma also responded really well. After a moment, he would obviously defensively, he obviously did there was a spin move, and there was a few moments in the game where he gives the ball away.
Did he kick it into the man of the mark as well?
He did kick it into the man of the mark.
Directly after.
Yeah, I remember he gave away an easy goal for Jason Horne-Francis inside 50. I think he may have missed that goal, but I love this guy.
He followed it up too. Like, that's the best thing that we saw, is that instantly he has that poor moment on the wing.
That's right.
But then 10 seconds later, he's up there intercepting the front half, and that clever little goal that realistically, I only reckon there's 3 blokes in the competition that can do 100%. That. Probably Willem, the Bont, and Luke Jackson, just with the long levers, but also the ability at ground level and able to get it on the boot so quickly through the big sticks. It's just so exciting.
So exciting to see this guy.
He had a really good game. We'll talk about him a little bit later with some of the standout performers, but I thought the 2 captains as well, Liam Baker and Liam Duggan, had some massive moments as well, and they definitely didn't disgrace themselves, which was nice to see them finding a little bit of form. We know it's been a tough year for them, but that is always good to see.
I thought also Hoffy deserves a bit of credit as well. He had the job on Butters, and not many players, not many people thought that this guy could probably do the role on him. Obviously, Butters is a highly damaging player, highly talented, very quick and burst out of stoppage. But this guy did a job on Cozzy Pickett in the Melbourne game, and he really shut him out of the game. I know a few mates who had some tips on him getting a few more disposals, but Hoffy did a great job on locking Cozzy Pickett down, and I love what he did. He only kept Butters to the 4 score involvements for the night, and he did an unbelievable job on Butters.
What I like the most about his tagging role is he can float off and hurt as well. I remember he kicked a good goal and had 20-odd touches at 100% efficiency when he was tagging Nick Dacos last year. And kicks the first goal of the night against Zach Butters, just to really get in his head. The 4 score involvements for Butters, as you said, we're taking that every day of the week. I still thought he impacted, but Hoffy doing a solid job, and it's such a good weapon to have in our arsenal. Harley Reid as well. I think he definitely has a bit of mental head noise when he comes up against Port Adelaide. You can sort of see when you're watching Harley play, you can tell pretty quickly if he's going to be in that mode that we see against GWS and against Essendon, or whether or not he's going to have an off night, I suppose you could say. And I think we saw a little bit more of that 2025 distracted Harley Reid than we would have liked, who just wasn't able to command the midfield when we needed him to do. But these games are going to happen. So still a solid showing from Harley, and that's the best part, is that his floor is still really high. But it seems like he really thrives on that matchup. But potentially it's just distracting him a little bit with Horne-Francis and Butters really getting under his skin.
Yeah, I think also Brendan Starcevich, this guy, obviously his first game back, obviously he's seen a lot of the rust early, some turnovers, some bad free kicks he was giving away, holding the man. And I mean, this guy's a bull. Like, I don't think anybody needs to panic on his performance. Obviously, this guy has missed, his last game he played was the grand final, and he got injured, got concussed in that game, and he was out of that game. So obviously, I love what he did with the young defensive team. He was setting him up. I was watching him down on the ground, and you're seeing him pointing the directions and holding the strings in the defense. And I think our defense was starting to look a lot better in that last half, and as Brendan was starting to get into the game. And I loved his D50 work. He's going to be brilliant for us and look like the Starcevich of old. I think this guy is just going to start to build and build and build and build, and time will tell, but this guy is an elite footballer.
He's got a bit of pace too, doesn't he?
He got a bit of legs on him.
I saw a couple of chases there where he was moving. I really didn't think that was a strength of his game. Maybe he was just happy to be out there on the field. That mid-forward connection, as we said earlier, still is a massive issue for us, but we know that the coaching staff have put a massive emphasis on being predictable to each other, which unfortunately means you are predictable to the opposition over the course of the game as well. But it's a necessary correction because earlier in the year we were sitting here talking about how we're turning the ball over too much.
That's right.
Going inside forward 50 with just some crazy madness in attack, essentially. And teams with those running halfbacks, they'll carve you up, and it was causing just an avalanche of goals. So you sort of have to pick your poison there a little bit, and that is just the way that we're choosing to go, and it's keeping us in game, so we can't really complain.
Not for sure.
Ruben's injury, though, that really hurts us.
Oh, God. Big Roo dog. Hated to see that on the ground. Obviously, he tried his best to get Georgiades, and I didn't like what we saw from Georgiades. Obviously, laughing Jimmy off. Piece of poo. Get off the pitch, mate. That's disgraceful.
It was the most Ruben Ginbey injury you'll ever see, isn't it? Apart from maybe going back from the flight, but just trying absolutely everything he could to get to that contest. Unfortunately, couldn't, and then trying to run off the ground as well, so that we could get another defender out there.
Stop and take a stretcher and lift this guy up and pick him up and make sure he doesn't get bloody injured even more.
Breaks your heart.
Oh, breaks our heart. And obviously, this guy was leading our MVP this season. He's been an absolute beast. You're seeing the evolution of Ruben Ginbey from that spoiling type to the intercepting type. And in that first half, I was thinking, this is bloody Jeremy McGovern on the pitch.
Dude, he was
intercepting
on his
everything.
Way to another perfect 10 votes before he injured his quad. He had, something like 10 intercepts in the first half.
Yeah, my gosh.
When you think about how crazy that is, it's rare air. So, we can't replace him. We know that. Having Brandon Starcevic back in that backline helps, but it's going to be really interesting to see who we call upon there. Ruben, they haven't ruled him out of return just yet, but I think it's unlikely. We'll just see how that plays out, but we certainly don't want any recurring injuries, and we know how hard of a trainer he is, so hopefully this isn't an issue that plagues him for a long time, but as soon as we can get him back out on the pitch, the better. Jake Waterman as well, just before we finish off, he's got a serious case of the yips. He has done all year, and it is devastating to see the vision of him
man.
after the game, just kneeling there on the ground, just so filthy with himself, even during the game. That little dummy spit as well.
Oh my gosh. He drops the goal in the goal square. He goes back 10 seconds later, the ball comes in, he takes a good mark, and he slams the ball on the deck.
Yeah. And he's doing everything else right, isn't he? Which is the hard part. You just feel for him. If he couldn't get a kick, he'd be upset, but he's getting his opportunities and he's just unable to kick him when it counts. And you can see he's just really in his head, isn't he, when he's lining 100%. Up for goal now.
Oh, poor bugger. And obviously, this is just a phase that obviously Jake will get out of eventually. This guy is a brilliant forward and has been very accurate in past seasons prior. It's a yips thing, it's a mental thing, and Jake will move on from it, I'm sure. And obviously, this guy's had so many shots for us, man. This guy could have so many bloody more goals, and it's just unfortunate. And if we were getting these more goals, maybe we'd have more wins. And
he knows that.
He knows that. You can tell he's frustrated. But Jake, just keep doing the stuff you're doing, man. You're getting in the game. The score involvements you're getting in the game are brilliant, and you can tell this guy is working extremely hard to get back to accurate guy that
he's working up the ground and taking big marks. He had something like 9 or 10 score involvements, which I think was almost a team high for us. So even though he's not kicking a bunch of goals, he's still getting involved and bringing other teammates in, which we need him to do. And it's just sort of a waiting process until we have the offensive weapons through the midfield to move the footy with a bit more purpose. He's just going to be unleashed with some better ball movement, but he is sort of constricted to what he can do at the moment, it is a bit of a shame.
Well, that's our back and forth for you guys. Obviously, we're going to get into our KPIs now. Kurt, you've obviously done your research. You've done your hard yards, mate, in the office doing the notes, and we obviously talk about a lot. We were talking about the performances. Now we need to get into the sort of data analytics sort of area and how we can improve, and obviously what we need to do to make our side a bit more offensively strong and defensively as well, with Ruben obviously coming out of the side. So, mate, what have you got for us this week?
I think this would be a bit of fun. We sort of take the stats section and just compact what we really need, and then we can move on to, the actual touch and feel of the game rather than what's on the stat sheet. But I heard Willem Dersman mention the inside forward 50 numbers, and that was directly after the game. So you can clearly see that that's something that Minnie had mentioned to the group in his first address after the game. And to be plus 12 in inside forward 50s is something that we could only dream of in the past. So we're absolutely taking that, clearly getting a lot right. There's still a fair bit to be desired in terms of finding our targets, as we know, but it's a start. Scores per inside 50 ran at just below 38% to Port's 45. So that really does tell the story of the game. For mine, we were getting our opportunities, unable to convert them, and Port were far more damaging when they went forward. As we said before, it felt like Alia and Radaglia were just marking absolutely everything that we sent their way. But we actually recorded 33% more intercept marks, 21 to 14. So that suggests that we were successful at pressuring the ball carrier, and our defense was set up pretty well. the last quarter in particular, I think that was where our pressure rating was north of 220 and
That's
the footy
huge.
lived in our front half.
Yeah.
And you'll be able to attest to this because you would have seen how they were set up, which we couldn't see on the
Mate, it was
broadcast.
huge.
But for us to be able to chip our way back into the game, playing that front half game style that Minnie's been talking about since the day that he got here, I thought that was really promising, and it was when it mattered the most. Some great signs there, particularly without Ruben Jinbi, who was holding us up there in the first half. We lost the hit-outs in a close one. I don't think that Bailey had his best night. Jordan Sweet was probably getting the better of him.
He was really good, Sweet.
Bailey's been in a good run of form, so that was a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah.
But despite losing the hit-outs, mate, it was nice to see us return to centre clearance dominance this week, doubling Port's total from the middle with their 7 to 14 of our own on the day. I still feel like Yo and Harley had massive almost games.
Yeah.
There were so many times where they just about got a meaningful clearance and weren't able to.
Yeah.
If they were slightly more on tune, mate, we win that game comfortably.
For sure. I think it's important when we get these clearances, we need to start to improve on how we enter. And we mentioned it earlier. Obviously, our scores per inside 50 were 38%.
Yeah.
If we can convert that to a high 40s, 50%, even north 60, then we're laughing. We're getting heaps more scores. We are heaps more damaging offensively. And it really starts with the middle. If we're winning centre clearance, that's the way out. That's our way into our forward 50. And
You can't do much more.
If we're winning at 14-7, then there's something right going on in
You've
that
got to
middle.
be really happy with that. And I remember at the start of the year when I did a trade and draft video and I mentioned probably the biggest list holds. Obviously, everyone and their dog knows that we need a key back, but just a forward half goal kicker or 2 or 3 would be really handy, potentially a small, because we know we've got tools. Shanahan's going to be a goal kicker soon. Cooper Duff could easily be. Archer Reid as well.
Yeah.
But we need a couple of smalls that are nipping around and threatening to kick 3.
Obviously, we got Milan Murdoch, who's been obviously a generational pull. We probably had a quiet game on the weekend, but this guy is that guy. But if we can get another one of those, and we're laughing up forward. And
absolutely. So that'll be something to keep an eye on for the back half of the season. We know we've been linked to players like Artie Jones. And potentially even Bobby Hill keen on a move.
Did you see
home.
Liam Ryan on the weekend? By the way?
Geez, we could use a guy like Liam Ryan, couldn't we?
Oh my gosh, 5 goals!
It is good to see him back in form, though. I'm not sure if he finds that form if he's still here at West Coast.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that move has paid him dividends. Back to the KPIs, just to finish off. We kicked 61 points from turnover, which is a nice little trend that's starting to build. Minnie's been, as I said before, he's placed a big emphasis on turning it over close to our goal, which just does lead to more scores and more inside forward 50s as we've seen. And that's, it's been his mantra since he got here. So it's good to see some evidence of that late, particularly in quarter 4.
Quarter 4, which is huge.
Where the game is to be won.
That's right. And this is what we've said in the past with Minnie. Obviously, we're starting to see that these players are starting to believe the system. And they're in that first half, I was thinking, where's the system? Where's the belief, guys? And when obviously Minnie got into him at 3/4 time, he obviously wasn't very happy with the first half, and these boys really stepped up to the plate and really started to show how we're going to play footy in the future. And it's really effective, and it can win us games. We obviously saw that when we played GWS and North. This style of play is bank for your buck, and if we play our cards, we can get it right, and that's what we want to do.
Just to put a bow on the game from a stats perspective, as you say, the shots at goal were almost even, so we're getting our opportunities, so were Port. And Champion Data's expected score metric reads pretty true as well. I think it was the same margin differential. So I do feel like Port deserved to win the game in the end.
For sure.
But I'm glad to see the club starting to become a difficult proposition at home, which is that next step with a massive focal crowd behind them.
Huge.
And people won't like me saying it, but losses like this are valuable for the group as well. They showed that when you're down at 20 odd points at three-quarter time, if you just go into your shell, we know what's going to happen. You're going to get blown out and lose by 50. We've seen it so many times. But if you knuckle down and fight, you might still lose, but you give yourself a red hot crack.
Yeah, give it a go.
And I think we just saw so much growth late in that quarter, and you need some losses.
That's right.
You learn things from winning, you learn things from losing. Hey, let's move on now and have a chat about some of our best players for the day. Plenty of solid contributors again this week, which is great. We'll do our 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. As always, another perfect 10 this week, mate. Tom McCarthy, our unanimous best of field.
Love what he did. Obviously was our highest disposal winner for the game with 31. 23 kicks as well. Obviously, the main thing that I love was his intercepting and his rebounds inside 50. And it was just love to see T-Mac take on his opponent and really turn the ball over and start our transition off halfback. And obviously, T-Mac's actually started on the bench on the game, and then he came. He really did, yeah, which was surprising. And then he came on, and he never really came off since then. He was really effective as well, and he used the ball well, which is what we brought him in for. He's a really nice user of the footy, and
he sort of went away from that a little bit at the start of the season, did he? So it was nice to see that return. And as you said, some really physical moments in the contest, which was great. Talk to me about Tommy Cole. You've given him 4 votes. I've given him the 2. But geez, a generational game from Coley. And have we found our forward?
I think we may have found our little forward. I loved his performance. Obviously, we were bagging him out at the start of the season a little bit as a halfback. Obviously, Minnie had been thinking about it for a while. He mentioned that after the game, and yeah, he had a really good game. 2 goals, probably could have had 3. 14 disposals, 5 score involvements, and 3 tackles. I love his pressure as well. He just brings that extra pressure and this tackling that we obviously stamp ourselves on, and I just love to see what he was doing in that game. Obviously, probably had arguably his best game for West Coast, obviously in a losing game, but yeah, I just love what Comcole did.
I really don't think that I don't think it's a long-term solution for us, but he's going a long way to getting himself another contract, where I think many of us thought that he was probably a pretty straightforward delisting come season's end when he started the year off playing in the 2s in the early rounds. But he's going to be hard to deny for a contract extension. Just makes things happen. And I think deep down we all do love Tom Cole. He's always been an effort guy. And it's kind of funny, I heard Liam Duggan speaking a couple of years ago about how the coaches would never play him forward, but he'd be the perfect pressure forward.
Yeah, right.
Because of his electric step and his sideways movement and his ability to do the tough stuff and pressure. So it's funny to see that coming to fruition a few years later. And I don't know if it's a long-term fix. I really don't think. I'm not filled with confidence, but you can't knock him. He's playing excellent footy over the last few weeks and almost single-handedly won us the game.
Yeah, for sure. And you obviously had Jake Waterman in your 2. Obviously, in your 4, sorry, and unlucky to obviously not get a few more goals. Obviously, this guy's stepping up and he's trying his hardest out there, but he really did deserve these 4 votes from you. So
19 touches, 3 goals, 11 marks, 8 score involvements, as we said before, and 3 tackles. It's a massive game.
Yeah.
And you notice him a lot out there. He really does do some massive things that not many others could do for us in that forward line. And so I just think we're so far off the pace without him.
Yeah.
Even though if he got a few things right, we're winning the game.
For sure.
You take him out of that side and we're nowhere near it. So Willem Dersma, though, getting your 3 votes, I gave him the 1. We spoke about his game a little bit earlier, but it's good to see him just continue this strong run of form, and he doesn't look like he needs a rest at all.
Nah, he's just a beast. 23 touches a goal. I loved his goal. I loved everything about it. That's the way he's going to be. He's going to be that type of player. Just obviously used his absolute huge length. Minnie's brought up before. Oh, he's got huge length, Minnie, and obviously just love what he did. He got 5 score involvements as well. A big contested mark as well, which was love to see that. And yeah, this guy's just going to be an absolute star once he gets up and going. And you had Tim Kelly in your 3, mate. I was tempted to put him in. I really loved the way he went about it. He's just been stepping up huge the last few weeks, and I just love Tim Kelly's game when he
has been great, and it's just so good to see. 26 touches, 575 metres gained, a handful of clearances, a handful of tackles, and a handful of score involvements.
Yeah.
I don't think it was his most damaging game in the contest, but we know that he is more of that outside polished midfielder when he has that inside grunt around him, and so it's good to see him finding the footy. And I had Tom Cole and Willem for the 2 and the 1, but you had Harley Reid floating in for the 1 vote, mate. Talk to me a little bit about his game.
I don't think it was his best game, but I really liked just the way he went about it. Even in that last quarter, he's set the tone at the start of that quarter, getting a big clearance and getting us inside 50. And I just love the way he went about it. 25 for the day, 7 clearances, 7 score involvements, which is pretty good. That's a pretty good above par game for him, and 5 tackles. I think he could have laid a few more tackles, a bit weakened defensively, but I just love the way that Harley goes about it each and every week, and he got my 1 vote for this week.
We'll get into some honourable mentions quickly before we move on. Bo Allen had 14 and a goal, and that massive last quarter, as we said before, just building really nicely into the season. So that's great to see.
Yeah, and Liam Baker as well. I think 40 showed up really well as a leader, 21 touches, 10 intercepts, which was really important. Slowly building and looking like the Bakes that we saw last year, obviously, was our John Morsford medalist.
Absolutely. His co-skipper as well, Liam Duggan, had 18 disposals and some massive one-on-one moments, which I read that Danny Laidley mentioned in her recap of the game, and I really respect her opinion on the footy. And I thought it's something that stood out to me as well when I was watching his one-on-one moments. A few
it was really
where
great.
he just had to go in the air and put his body on the line and kept us in the game.
Yeah, Elliot Yeo as well, I thought was pretty decent. 15, 7 tackles, a goal. Obviously not his night, but he was almost there. He almost had a great night, which was great from Yoey. He's starting to build his season up and is starting to get some consistent footy moving forward, which is nice.
One of the most positive developments, I think, from the game was Rep Bazzo. He intercepted the footy 8 times, had some big marks as well in there, and he held Georgiades to 0 goals in that last half when Ruben Jinbi went off. So a great game from him. It was really interesting to see the way that they set up the tools. I just want to have a quick side tangent here. Why was Tyler Young playing on Corey Durden?
Yeah,
it's just such a mismatch that really hurt us. When the ball hit the deck, he was just getting turned with his turning circle, obviously nowhere near able to replicate the movement of Durden. And I think that really cost us. So it's going to be interesting to see where they go with the tolls. Yeah. Bailey Williams had the 12 disposals from the 29 hitouts. It's far from his best, but he competed all day in true Bailey fashion, which we know and love.
And sadly, Ruben Jimby, who we mentioned earlier, obviously caught that horrible injury. But in his first half, he had 12 disposals and 10 intercepts. And a nick over 50% and just elite. Obviously, this guy's an absolute beast.
He just keeps getting better, doesn't he? And it's a shame that we're going to see him on the sidelines for so long. I've just got a notification, Ryan Daniels. It's Steve Allen with an update on Ruben Jinbi. It's actually a positive one. He said he's already back at it at training.
Huge.
Just going in through a few handballs with the boys. He's not running. He's not going to be running for a long time. Sorry to do that to you. But he's in good spirits around the club, joining in with some handball drills, which is good to see. If we missed anyone, please let us know in the comments if there was anyone's game that you really enjoyed. But I think there were some really nice signs of growth to come from that game, which is great. Before we get out of here, we will just have a look at some selection calls and also quickly touch on some of the WAFL boys as well, banging down the door after a really good win against the ladder leaders in Claremont. So take it away, Rhino.
I mean, Claremont lost their best player in the game, unfortunately, obviously.
Right.
Yeah, so that was a big moment in the game. Claremont was starting to build and their best player goes down, but I loved the way we went about it, and some players really stood up in that game. Obviously, huge for the WAFL side to get a win like that. And obviously that means that some players are knocking on the door, and obviously a look to next week, really important game against North. I think we make quite a few changes. I think we make maybe 3 changes. I love how Ollie Franco went about it in WAFL. Obviously brought this guy as our main pick in the mid-season draft. He looks like a grunt, like a bull in there.
Still only 20 years old.
Obviously averaged like 30 disposals over in the Sandfold. He's now starting to bring it over to the WAFL. Just looks a pure player, and I think obviously this guy can play inside and outside, and I think Hamish Davis probably needs to go back to WAFL for a few weeks. I think he had 17 touches or so. I think 16 were handballs, and he had 0 marks for the game as a wingman. I think he just needs to go back to the drawing board. I think he's a really hard worker, Hamish Davis. You can see he's a big body for his size and his age, and I think if he gets some WAFL minutes, he'll come back into the side pretty quickly. But Ollie Franco, I think this guy's AFL ready, and I think he's really knocking on the door. And obviously with Ruben going down, what do we do? Do we stay big? Do we stay tall? Do we go a Sandy Brock route? I don't know if we do that. I think I watched Lindsay in the WAFL game, and he's just too good for the level. I think we maybe go smaller. I think Rep Bazzo, who really stepped up and locked down Georgiades, becomes that main guy at the back. I think he's starting to build really quite nicely, and obviously unfortunate with Harry Edwards with his concussion, because he would be coming straight back into the side if possible. But I think we go smaller. I think Lindsay comes in for Ruben. And this last guy I want to talk about, his first game in WAFL, I was really impressed. Herbert, who we brought in from the Geelong VFL side, I think he's going to be an absolute gun. If you watch this guy, he's really smooth mover. He's like a smooth operator. in the back half. He's really clean with his hands. His kicking is really, really competitive. Looks like a Murphy Reed off a half back, a Tom McCarthy type, really good transition. I saw him do a few pirouette handballs. This guy is a really clean player, and I think we maybe look at Ryan Marrick, these type of guys, or even like a Harvey Johnston. These guys, a Malachi Champion possibly, and obviously other guys like Tom Gross, who scored 4 goals on the weekend, was looking really nice. Could have had 7 in that game. He had 3 behinds as well. This move to forward, I think, has really benefited him. And yeah, I think I'd love to see what they've done with the WAFL side, and they brought Tyler Dewar back forward, which we talked about earlier in the season. He started at that halfback, and I'm thinking, what's this guy going to do at halfback? He's not going to get into this side at halfback. There's too many good halfbacks. And Tyler Dewar is also knocking on the door as well. And I think these guys are starting to put a really good case into getting in this AFL side with players coming out and players getting injured,
just
unfortunately.
Listening to you speak about it, it's so good to have these guys that are ready to knock down the door. When you think about Ollie Franco coming in as an inside mid, and the players that are going out even strikes me the most. Hamish Davis says by far he hasn't had a bad year.
I agree.
So 100%. If he was to go out, he would be stiff.
Yeah.
Same goes for Ryan Marrick, who's putting together some reasonable form, and Harvey Johnston as well. We were talking about earlier. We can't really
fault him.
No, we can't fault him at all for considering the experience that he has and the tough role that he's playing. So, hey mate, while we're on the topic, we will just have a quick run through the actual stats from the WAFL boys who are putting their hand up for selection. I know you are a big fan of Ollie Franco, so how did he go on the weekend?
I love the way he went about it. 26 touches. He had a really even kick to handball ratio, 13 and 13, that's huge. That's huge. He's doing it on both sides of the plays. Just a 20-year-old bull, mate. He's a huge player. He'll be a good player for us. I love the way he goes into the contest. He's just an absolute beast.
Hopefully we found one there. Finn McRae had 22 touches, and people keep telling me that he should be in this side, and we even mentioned it before we went away for our break that he should come in after that St Kilda loss, but you can just clearly see that he's not in the coaching panel's plans. He's an amazing WAFL player, and he's been really good support for the young guys. Hopefully we can get him to stick around for another year if we go to do that, but just because I think he's so good to have that leader in there. But if I had to guess, I would say that he's back playing country footy in Victoria next year, but unlikely to get a gig this year, I think, despite the strong run of form. Elijah Hewitt, sporting the bald head, mate. How did he go?
I did. I was watching the WAFL fan. I'm thinking, is this Brandon Starcevich? Are you sure he's back in AFL today? No, ends up being Elijah Hewitt. Had a good, solid game. 21, 7 tackles. He's starting to build his production really nicely, and he's obviously not far away. But I think back to our game plan with Mini, and I think to guys like Malachi Champion and Harvey Johnston, who are really important.
They're almost more important, aren't they?
They're so important in our forward half pressure. Obviously, we look back to that last quarter where our pressure was 220. These guys were pivotal in getting us that forward half lockdown. And I think Elijah Hewitt and Tom Gross and these guys who that's not what they're known for. They're known for their creativity and their craft, whilst Malachi and Harvey Johnston are known for their pressure and their defensive actions. And I think these guys are keeping us in games a lot more than these Elijah Hewitts and these Tom Gross types who are really offensively minded rather than our defensively minded. So, but Elijah's building nicely, which is good to see.
That's all we want to see from him.
For sure.
Marcus Herbert, just the 16 touches on the weekend, but still did some nice things, as you said, and he could easily still be in calculation for selection this week. Tommy Gross, mate, had one of the big almost days. It looks like they've moved him forward, is what I'm hearing. I didn't watch the game, but 16 disposals, 4 goals, 3 behinds, clearly ready to go. And maybe they are just saying, you know what, he's not going to make it in our midfield just yet. So potentially if we want to play him, it's going to have to be as a forward, and he certainly didn't disappoint if that was the case.
And Josh Lindsay as well. This guy was managed at halftime, had 10 disposals and a really classy goal. Looks way too good for WAFL for me.
He was taking the piss. A little bit of physical stuff as well from the vision that I saw.
Yeah, for sure. And this is his underrated part of his game. I think he's been pretty well defensively for us in the AFL side, which really confuses me why he went out in the first place. Obviously a big talking point on other news programs and other podcasts. I think Josh Lindsay's just way too good. Obviously got that rising star nom as well in that GWS game. He was huge for us in that game, and I think this guy just needs to come back in. Obviously, Ruben going down. I think we do go smaller, and I think Josh Lindsay, just a classy ball user, is really important for us. Taking our kickouts as well. I think I obviously saw Stars taking a few kickouts as well in the AFL, and he's got really nice ball skills as well. And yeah, I don't know what we do, but Josh Lindsay, I just think is too good for the WAFL side.
Couple more before we wrap it up. Tyrell Dewar, 2 goals from 10 disposals as a forward. Yep. Who would have thought he'd kick some goals if you move him to where he belongs on the field? Hey, it's crazy. It's almost like we've been campaigning for it for the last year and a half, but hopefully that's something that they persist with, because we need a goal kicker, and we know that he can do that. Saw he laid a few tackles as well on the stat sheet too. That's been a big question mark of his, is his willingness to run defensively, but they've been playing him on the wing. They've been playing him in defence, so clearly that's not too much of a hole in his game, but keen to see where that goes. And on a positive note, it was good to see Jake Miles-Renty make his league WAFL debut as a key defender, which is interesting. Couple of games for Perth Demons reserves, because he wasn't quite up to the WAFL League standard in terms of the physicality. But clearly a long-term project player there, and almost 200 centimetres, very athletic, and do some nice things with the footy in his hands. So we're keen to track his development closely.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's move on now, mate, and have a quick gauge of North Melbourne and where they're at the moment, just before we wrap up.
I think they've been travelling really well this year. I think they've been quite a few games, but I would like to mention quickly that they've been pretty lucky with the oppositions that they've had to play earlier on in the season. Obviously, starting to get found out to their level. And
I think we flagged that earlier, didn't we? When we played them at the start of the season. It's a good time to get them too, isn't it? Off the back of that massive loss. They're doing the extended stay in WA, so they're away from their own bed. 120 points is
that's no fun.
It's nothing to be sneezed at, and we struggled. I don't think we've ever seen a team win the week after coming up against a game like that. We obviously lost by 128 to St Kilda, and then followed on to lose to Richmond, a team that we should have beaten the next week.
That's right.
So is that going to happen to North? Lose by 120 plus and then lose again the next week to a team that they probably should beat, given the way their season's been panning out. We know we obviously got the better of them at the start of the year. We'll have a look at some of the stats, mate. We just go bar for bar here. But to start us off, North Melbourne are third last in the comp for time in forward half, which was something that really stood out to me. We currently sit 10th, just right on AFL par at 50%. So despite that, they are actually slightly higher for inside forward 50s than us, and inside forward 50 retention. So that's something interesting to see there.
Yeah, I do want to mention as well, they're actually the first in disposal retention in the side for the AFL, whilst we actually sit second last, which is a big, small chip on our shoulders. I think that North Melbourne have actually got really nice ball users as well, like the Caleb Daniel types, and Kobe McKercher starting to step up as really nice ball users.
They like taking that small kick that they can, that they know is there, and they try and work up the ground methodically, whereas I think we see a little bit more risk with our ball use. And so it's going to be interesting to see how the two styles of play sort of clash. We clear them in contested possessions, and they're dead last for ground ball gets, while we are top 6 in the comp for that stat. So despite that, though, they're a rock-solid clearance team. We know they've got some absolute Rolls Royces rolling through that midfield, so it won't be an easy runaway job from the centre, but that is a place that we can gain the ascendancy if the whips start cracking. They are the worst defensive side in the comp when it comes to intercepts. So if we can gain that first use from the middle, we can challenge them in a big way up forward.
For sure. And I think if we make this a scrappy, ugly game and fast-paced game, no different from what we normally do with these two sides, I expect a ton of momentum changes in the game, like we saw in the last game. Each team having their little sections in the game.
It was a roller coaster, wasn't it?
It was really a roller coaster. Obviously, Milan sealing the game with a beautiful snap. We love to see that, big Milan Murdoch. And he had a really big game for us that game. And I think, if we can make this a scrap, it's just going to be end-to-end type scores.
It'll be a really good game of footy.
I hope it's a really good game of footy.
Huge bonus to get them at Optus Stadium again, isn't it? Twice in 1 year.
Sure.
And it'd be massive to get the better of them twice in the same year. I can't remember the last time that we actually beat a team twice. So they'll be missing an important cog in Finn O'Sullivan. I'll be expecting probably Jai Simpkin does a run with roll on Harley Reid if they choose to go that way. And other than that, they're only really missing Tom Powell and Jackson Archer from their best side, and we'll obviously be without Ruben Jinby. But I'm intrigued to see how we combat that, and can't wait for hopefully another winnable game.
Hope so. Last game for the boys before the bye, so hopefully that leads to us hopefully for a 5th win of the season, mate.
That'd be massive.
That would be massive.
Going into the bye, kick the feet up, get down to Margs or Dunsborough or something like that and soak up some sun. So hopefully the boys can get across the line. You'll be at the game?
I won't be, actually. I'm in Adelaide this weekend. I'll be at the Port Adelaide and Sydney game for some reason with my cousins. Big Sydney fans, obviously my cousins. But yeah, unfortunately, I'll miss that one. Really wanted to catch this one.
That's all right. You'll be back for the podcast, will you?
Oh, of course, mate. Can't miss that. I'll be back on the Sunday night, so I should be here on the Monday.
Good man. He's dedicated, Rhino. We can't thank you enough for joining us again this week. Same for you guys. It's been great to chat. We'll be back soon, hopefully to review another win.
Hopefully, mate.
Looking forward to it.
Looking forward to it, man. I think this is definitely a winnable game, and I just think if the boys keep the momentum like we have had for the past few weeks, I think we can nab this one. I think we can get this one. Obviously, defensively, we might struggle, but I think if we can really take this game by the neck and we can get North Melbourne. I think this would be a great win to step into that bye and get that week's rest, and then Carlton obviously away. Can't wait for it, man.
Awesome. See you soon. Take care.
See you guys. See ya.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Golden Wings. Make sure to take a moment to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow along on Spotify and Apple Podcasts so you can listen on the go. Leave us a 5-star rating or a like on the video. Even hype it if it's an option on YouTube. Not sure what it does, but it helps us a lot. Make sure you're following us on Golden Wings Podcast over at Instagram so you don't miss a thing throughout the week. And most importantly, if you've got a friend or a family member who loves their West Coast Eagles, tell them the good word and put them on to the podcast. That'd be much appreciated. We'll see you next week. Bye for now.